Welcome to Boxing Scene Today. I'm Ricardo Celis here in the studio with the champs, with Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi, the Magic Man, and via Zoom, we got the Trainer of the Year, Robert Garcia. Gentlemen, this weekend in New York becomes the center of the boxing world. On Friday, we're going to have on Madison Square Garden, Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor. The trilogy is going to be a great fight. And then Saturday in Queens in New York is going to be Edgar Berlanga versus Hamzah Sheeraz. Chris, who are you more excited to watch for this weekend?
You know, both cards are excellent. It's the all ladies card. MVP doing a great job. They've signed like all of the female talent in the world. All the top ladies are fighting on the card, which I think is a really cool idea.
And they fight each other, you know. So
and they all fight each other. Exactly.
Good
well,
matchups.
the talent pool's smaller. They all, in order to make money, they have to fight each other. So they don't really have the options to be able to duck and dive and juke and jive like a lot of some of these other male fighters have. So the females have to fight, and they have to fight early too. Their careers start a lot quicker because the talent pool is smaller. But now we're seeing like some really seasoned, high level females who are fighting, and they're all on one card, which is going to be really good for the sport in terms of the females, because you're going to get a lot of eyes who might not see these ladies normally.
And especially because it's by Netflix.
Well, it's by Netflix, so you get the eyes, of course. But like Amanda and Katie have transcended women's boxing. They're like a true attraction now for the sport. So then you're going to have people who are going to be tuning in to see them. Now you're going to be introduced to all these other ladies. I think it's a really, really smart idea by MVP Promotions. But man, I don't know. I really like the trash talk between Berlanga and Shiraz. They're so polar opposite in the way they go about it. Yeah, it makes for a really good narrative, really good storyline. They truly do not like each other. You have Shiraz, who is extremely well spoken. He's got his British accent. He dresses very, very nice. Then you got Berlanga, man. Berlanga is a Brooklyn guy. He's in there. He's got his chains on. He's hunched over. He's cursing in his face. He's getting nasty with it. I like that kind of stuff. So when you got those two kind of styles, personality styles, but also fighting styles clashing, it makes me very intrigued. So I'm looking forward to that fight.
I'll tell you why I like both cards, but I feel like this would have been a great doubleheader type of event weekend. Puerto Rican Day Parade weekend, because you got Amanda on Friday and then you got Berlanga on Saturday. This would have been
missed opportunity.
A perfect segue into the Puerto Rican Day Parade, right. I think. But either way, I'm
Put
not
them both on the float the next day.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, and then Sunday they both go on the float. I'm not complaining. They're great cards, but I think the timing would have been awesome on the Puerto Rican Day Parade, because you know how big you're from New York as well. You know how big the Puerto Rican Day Parade is in New York City. But regardless, I think, a month later after the Puerto Rican Day Parade, you still have a big weekend for Puerto Ricans, Puerto Rican fans. You have
New York summer.
The Serrano,
New York summer, man.
The Serrano rivalry with Katie Taylor, dare I say, it's probably the biggest rivalry in the history of women's boxing.
Definitely.
I think, I don't know if any of them personally have transcended Layla Ali's popularity, but Layla had an advantage being Muhammad's daughter. But there's nothing Layla could do to have that kind of rivalry that has really gripped the public and transcended, like you said, to use the champ's words, it transcended into the mainstream as far as people talking about it. I think Layla herself transcended, but again, even though she was a good fighter, I think she transcended because she was an Ali.
She never had the dance partners.
Yeah, well, she also avoided some of the dance partners. I'm going to be fair here, especially in Wolf. But these two really collided, and that's the difference. You see, now you made a good point there. Because you made a point before. Again, gotta give the champ some credit, because you made a point before where the women have to fight each other. Layla was such a big profile. She didn't have to fight anybody. She could just do what she wanted.
She had her own orbit.
And she did fight some good fighters, but also the talent pool wasn't as good. But she could afford to avoid Layla. Amanda and Katie needed each other.
Right.
Women's boxing needed that rivalry. I always have said that I felt like if Layla had fought Ann Wolf, women's boxing would have been advanced much faster. 20 years ago.
Layla never had a fight like Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor.
Did.
That was
and Wolf,
war,
HBO had told her. I remember. I was a pro, dude. I remember HBO was clearly going to put women on TV as long as she fought Ann Wolf. That was the matchup they made, because that was the standard at that time. Old school boxing, the networks, standard was you had to get a date on HBO or Showtime back when they were really HBO or Showtime, and fans at home are going to know what I'm talking about. You had to have the right dance partner too. You needed either you make a good fight. We're not going to let you just pad your record on our network.
They
not
didn't do showcase fights now.
Not back then. So they weren't going to let Layla pad her record on HBO either. But we'll take the Ann Wolf fight, because that's not padding your record. That's putting your record on the line. And I felt like by not doing that, the interest in boxing, sort of in women's boxing, didn't advance as fast. I feel like if that fight had happened then, the movement we're seeing today in women's boxing would have already started 20 years ago. But it's thanks to Katie and Amanda. This rivalry, obviously, there's a great generation of women fighters that have come along. You got Alicia Baumgardner, you got Sinisa Estrada, who just retired. You have what's the other one? The full Baumgardner, her rival, Baumgardner.
Michaela Mayer.
Yep. Just
Clarissa Shields, of course.
Clarissa Shields, of course. Top amateur and pro. So you've got a great generation too. That definitely helps. But now you needed that rivalry that transcends, that really makes people want to watch and say, I can't miss this. Not only were they two top fighters, but their styles blended and meshed.
Yes.
Taylor and Serrano have been entertaining in two fights against one another. And there's still adjustments to be made. I personally think there's adjustments that can be made by both fighters. I don't know how past their prime they are. I do think at this point they're a little bit past their prime. They've been very good fighters. But in having seen the first two fights, I could see adjustments that could be made by either fighter that still glare at me and say, man, if this one makes that adjustment, or if this other one makes this adjustment, woof, man, I wonder what kind of advantage it gives them, So I'm curious, but that makes me more curious about the third fight. As good as the first two have been, I think there's still some work left on the table for the third fight that could be done, and somebody could grab this rivalry by the horns. Because let's face it, Serrano could have maybe got both of the first two fights. She didn't get any of them.
They were very close.
So that's why we have a third fight. You don't usually see somebody sweep the first two fights and get a third fight, but with these two, you get that.
Coach, which fight are you more excited to watch for this weekend?
There's gonna be great fights this weekend, Saturday, Friday. But I'm excited about Serrano Taylor. We seen them both go to war twice already. Very controversial decisions that could have gone either way. Headbutts. There's everything's in the mix. I think this fight is the one that I'm mostly excited about, just because of the wars they've done, the controversy they've had with the headbutts and stuff like that. The teams are also going back and forth. I'm excited about Taylor Serrano. I can't wait for this fight. I think it's gonna be another great fight. I truly believe Taylor has had the best of her. She's had wars. I think they've not. I don't want to say she's done, but I picked Serrano to put this one out this time because I think she's a little bit fresher.
Robert, can she get a decision?
I think she could get the decision.
She was in New York.
She was in New York for the first one.
The first two fights were very close.
I think Serrano does get a decision this time.
I agree with you. I think Serrano's gonna win by decision, close decision, but I think
I was talking about some of the adjustments that can be made. That's a show in and of itself. But I'll tell you, because we're on the decision point of Serrano, one of the adjustments I can see Serrano, making is, you see her hurt most of her opponents. Serrano hurts most of her opponents.
Katie both times.
And never finishes them. If Serrano could up her finishing skills, because it's like somebody who doesn't
2 minute rounds, dude. 2 minute rounds.
But somebody who doesn't not everybody hurts their opponents. You know what I'm saying? Like, so for somebody who hurts her opponents a lot, if Serrano could get a finish, Serrano could up her finishing skills, that would be an exclamation point.
I could see
especially at the first two fights.
I could see a finish in this fight. Serrano hurt Katie in both of the first two fights. She hurt her early in the last fight, and in the the first fight, I think it was like between rounds 5 and 7. She had Taylor in a really bad way, and then she hurt her really early in the second fight. It was first or second round. But again, to your point, didn't follow up. But the 2 minutes, I think, hurts her because she does hurt the girls. Doesn't have the time to follow up. But it's not out of the just like Robert said, Coach, that Serrano's fresher. I think both these ladies have been leaving parts of themselves in the ring because these fights have been so tough. But Taylor, she's had a lot of tough fights. She's had a lot of rounds because she's not a knockout artist. Amanda has a lot of fights. She knocked out a lot of girls, and she didn't get hit a whole lot along the way, or girls that could really hurt her, especially in those lighter weight classes. So, I do believe the fresher one is Serrano. I've seen her hurt Katie. I've never seen Katie hurt Amanda.
Okay, here's a pushback now. Katie looked like she was done when she lost to Cameron before
who could really fight.
Before this rivalry, and then all of a sudden you were looking at it like, oh, she's there for the taking from Serrano, and Taylor, really stepped her game up, and I think either girl could have won both of those fights, but nonetheless, she stepped her game up when you expected her after the Cameron loss to sort of be walk off into the sunset with a loss to Serrano. Instead, she surprises you too.
Taylor, I put her on almost like a level like an Usyk, where she just doesn't know how to lose. She just finds a way. There's an extra gear that always gets pulled out.
Another good point. You know why? Another freaking good point. You know why? No. Seriously, I'm not kidding, and I always tell you why it's a good point. I feel like Taylor gets these decisions because, and Coach Garcia, you'll understand this too, right? Because you've fought at the highest level. Sometimes it's just knowing how to win the round and show you won the round. Serrano kind of just she does what she does.
Yeah,
Taylor will like flurry at a key moment as the round is closing, or get a big exchange where at a key moment. She knows that it's knowing how to win rounds, and I feel like it's a really good fighter also has that in the back of their mind where you know how to win, you know how to steal those rounds, or you know how to win those rounds. You know how to grab a moment of a round that swings it in your favor when it's close. Taylor does that a lot.
Winning a gold medal, dude.
Yeah, Ray Leonard was like that too. You know what I mean? Actually, he used that in the Hagler fight. Yep. Taylor does that a lot because both of these fights were close, but it was almost like Taylor sometimes she gives you the illusion because either girl could win the fight, but she knows how to give you the illusion like, yeah, I won. Like I had the moment of the round that got the crowd on their feet, and that when the crowd got on their feet, that was the moment that I won. Even though Serrano may have won other moments in that round and may even deserve the round, but the moment they got the crowd on their feet the most, Taylor won that part of the round, so now the judges are giving it to her. You know what I mean? I feel like Taylor has that, like that sixth sense of like, I know how to grab this round. Will Serrano make that adjustment?
The thing is, also, Robert, one of the problems was the headbutts. Amanda Serrano got a couple of cuts because of headbutts.
Look, when you're fighting a left-hander versus a right-hander, it always happens. So it's not like it's purposely done. There was no. I don't think
come on, Coach. You don't think Taylor's headbutt on purpose? She's flying in like a billy goat.
I really don't think so. I think it's part of boxing. It happens a lot when you're fighting a lefty versus a right-hander. I don't think she does it on purpose. I think it's just the way boxing is. Hopefully we don't see that because I want to see a really good fight. We're talking about Taylor, the experience. Everything she does to pull off the rounds. I think she's been able to do that, but I think her moment is already past her prime. I think this time around it'll be Serrano pulling off the win, and I wouldn't be surprised if Serrano even stops her because she has hurt her a couple of times, and this time she might be able to finish it. The body's just there's a point where the body's just have enough, and there's no more you could do. The harder you could train as hard, but when your body doesn't respond, you just can't do it. And I see that happening to Taylor already.
I want to make a point about the headbutts too, Ricardo, real quick. I think one adjustment Serrano can make here, if it doesn't affect her game, because again, she's used to fighting this way, she could blade herself off a little bit. She's very squared, especially when she's walking you down. Yeah. She stays very squared. So when you stay very squared, you're there as more as a target for the headbutts. When you blade off a little bit, she's the southpaw. When you blade off a little bit, maybe you have the head coming into your shoulder. You could turn it a little bit, or you can prevent that headbutt from entering into that pocket. Just again, the adjustment would have to be only if it doesn't affect her
effectiveness.
Her effectiveness, her ability to be effective.
Part of Amanda's game, and I think this gets looked over a little bit, is that she has a really good chin. She comes for girls don't hurt her, girls don't knock her off balance.
Serrano.
Okay. Amanda. Yeah, she comes forward and she's a puncher. And she's southpaw, but she'll square up, like you said, because she wants to get both those shots hard with the left hand and the right hook, because she has a good right hook as well. And she'll put her nose on the line, or she'll put her chin on the line, because she's strong enough physically, and I think she's durable enough that she'll stay in there. But listen, headbutts are different. Headbutts are a different thing.
And the blood tends to get people on their feet.
Well, listen, dude, that last fight should have been stopped on that.
Yeah.
They should have stopped that, went to the scorecards on that.
Yeah, the cut was
that cut was absolutely brutal. The only reason that fight was allowed to go was because of the magnitude of the matchup.
Right.
Yeah.
Robert, we're talking about these two cards that are going to happen in New York this weekend. Also, in the Berlanga Shiraz card is going to be Shakur Stevenson versus William Cepeda. What do you think about that fight?
Look, we were talking about Amanda Serrano and Taylor, that we forgot about the
correct. Yeah, it's gonna be great fights, man.
A great card too, man. Yeah. Those fights. I can't wait for those fights. The main event, honestly, I'm very excited about, because you guys mentioned it earlier. Shiraz is always dressed nice, looks great. Great person, talks well. Berlanga, the street guy, the New York guy, the jewelry, the big jackets and stuff like that. I can't wait. It's a fight that me personally, I don't pick a winner in this one, but I'll be happy for both, whoever wins, because one deserves it because of the way he is, the way he dresses, the way he speaks, and the other one is just a street boy that deserves it too. That's why I'm excited about that fight too. And the co-main event with Camarón Cepeda. I hate to say it, but I think Shakur is just gonna be too good and too smart for him. Camarón Cepeda is a great fighter, great warrior when it comes to staying busy, throwing punches. But I don't think he's got the power. I don't think he's got the skills to beat Shakur.
But
And
I know-
hopefully
Wow,
I'm wrong.
interesting.
I like Camarón Cepeda.
And coach, another point to make, especially after we saw Farmer looked worn out and got stopped in one round against Schofield after
Schofield,
two fights back to back with Zepeda that were tough. What about if they also took a toll on Zepeda? What he's coming off those same two fights.
Yeah.
Like he
Farmer
went down
did.
first time
Yeah.
in his career.
So if there's not the best version of Zepeda, I mean, it's hard for him to win even the best version of himself against a guy like Shakur Stevenson. But if you don't get the very best version of Zepeda, it's going to be a real uphill battle for him against Shakur Stevenson, who's got something to prove and who's got the platform he wants here with Turki Al-Ashi giving him the opportunity and also praising him. Shakur is going to come in there and want to impress all the more.
Regardless, like to your point, Champ, even the best version of Zepeda, I think is tailor-made for Shakur. I think Shakur boxes circles around him, controls him, even walks him down at times, and will look to beat him up at times. I see Shakur going out there with a lot to prove and making a statement.
You think so?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Shakur is going to control the space, dominate, and just look spectacular.
And also for the main event on that card, just to go back to it, Edgar Berlanga opened as the favorite. Right now, Hamzah Sheeraz is the favorite. A lot of money has come in on
Shiraz is the
Hamzah
favorite? Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
well, originally,
That's another reason why I
at
said
the-
I'm so excited
at
for this card.
Well,
That fight.
people are going back and forth, right? The fight odds opened with Edgar Berlanga being the favorite and Shiraz being the underdog. Right now, Hamzah Sheeraz they're still close, but Hamzah Sheeraz is now Shiraz is a slight favorite.
You know how
Berlanga's
this
a
guy
slight
is such
underdog.
up-to-date betting lines? He's got degenerates on tap. Like they
Yeah.
call, they text him right away. Like,
Yeah.
hey,
I
look at
do.
this. Champ.
Hey, Tommy.
So, Paulie, who do you think is going to win in that fight? Shiraz
That's a
or
tough
Berlanga?
one. That's a tough one because there's a lot of things to keep in mind here. Okay. First, you look at the positives for the pros for Berlanga, the natural super middleweight, maybe even the natural light heavyweight who's still fighting a super middleweight. Big guy. He's going to be physical. Shiraz is a big middleweight. And had to go up to super middleweight because now he can no longer. It was starting to affect his performance in the middleweight division. He's a very big middleweight, but now you going up against you end up to super middleweight, and you took on a guy who's very big at super middleweight, who's probably barely making super middleweight. So that's a catch-22 because Berlanga's a physical guy. He walks you down. He gives you one look, so it's not as difficult to find him. But he's closed up and he uses that physicality.
He's a tank.
So the question is, does the physicality bother Shiraz because he's a middleweight coming up, or does Berlanga struggle to make the weight the way Shiraz was, and now he gives us only a lesser version of himself the way Shiraz did against Adames, and that way it gives Shiraz an opportunity to really dominate. The other side of it is, you got the physicality of Berlanga. Maybe he's a bit stronger, but Shiraz has been pretty strong in middleweight.
Good puncher.
But he's been down against Torres. I forget the guy's name, Torres. He was down in that fight. Flash knockdown, took a right hand and went
Canelo,
down.
right?
No,
Shiraz.
Oh, Shiraz.
Shiraz.
Yeah.
Shiraz. Berlanga went down, but with Canelo, it's almost forgivable because
Right.
Canelo can punch.
But Berlanga's been down. He was also down with the Argentinian.
He was.
Can't remember.
All right, so you made your point. You know what? Again, you raised my cards, and I don't call because now he's making a good point. Quinn's chins can be questioned on both sides, but Shiraz is the smaller guy, so you're gonna be getting hit by a bona fide puncher. We know Berlanga can punch. We know Shiraz can punch. Can he take the power up with him to super middleweight? But there's a slight question about Berlanga's power too. Can he punch at a world-class level? He has to show that too. So a lot to prove in this fight. It's two hungry guys, I feel like. Yeah, Berlanga made a lot of money, but he still hasn't become a world champion, so he hasn't really established his name besides being the guy who fought Canelo. I think he's going to have that hunger to want to really establish his own name, his own legacy. And, of course, that's what Shiraz is here for as well, to establish his own name, establish his own legacy. So I think this collision of these two fighters is going to show that recipe that I like, which is not just skills and two world-class fighters, but also determination, hunger, and guys who are going to come with violence because they want to get that result.
Right. Coach, who do you think is going to win on that fight?
Look, it's such a close fight, and that's why the odds have it the way it is. First they have one as a favorite, then the money starts coming in, and it's kind of switching already. That's what makes the fight so exciting. It's hard to pick a winner. Honestly, for me, it's not easy because both are very talented. Both have the skills to pull it off. If I'm forced to pick a winner, I think Berlanga pulls it off, but it's a very close fight.
Let's remember, Chris, when Shiraz fought Adames, a lot of people thought that Adames won that fight, and it was
myself included.
Yeah,
myself included. And I'm a big Hamzah Sheeraz fan. I think he's an excellent fighter. I've spoken to him about this in the past. I think he's super talented. His physique for middleweight was crazy. I think he's still going to be a good size super middleweight actually. But the question is going to be, does he bring the power up with him? Because this is his first time at 68 fighting, especially at a world-class level. And he's fighting a guy like all the points that Champ made earlier is a really big super middle is Edgar Berlanga. So this is a pick'em fight. I lean towards the bigger, more natural guy at the weight, Edgar Berlanga, because he's also explosive and has a good pop. But I don't know. I mean, it's all going to depend on what Shiraz can do at 68. If he is anywhere near as good as he was at 60, he could easily be the favorite.
Well, it's the moment for these guys to prove themselves because I think with Shiraz, the word is that he was struggling to make middleweight, and so that's why he struggled against Adames. But Adames is also very underrated.
Yes.
Adames is a very good fighter,
Correct.
and nobody really gives him the credit. On the other hand, now you're all coming into with Berlanga, who for me has been a slightly overrated and who has a lot to prove himself as well. So both these guys have a lot to prove. Not that he's not world-class, Berlanga, but he's got to prove that he can win at this level. This is the level now. Shiraz also, he's won at a pretty good level, but this is the level that you want to win at now. So this is why I like this collision course. This is the fight where you say, okay, who belongs here? Maybe they both belong here. Maybe it'll be such a good fight that we'll come out of the fight and say, because sometimes we do. We watch these kind of fights and we say, man, both of those guys want to see them again. They belong at this level. Sometimes you have this fight and you find out one guy doesn't belong. We're going to find out Saturday night, but it's one of those fights because of the odds going back and forth. You get excited because you're bringing up all these talking points. That's why we're here talking about it. And you start to think, man, this guy can win. No, this guy can win. No, this guy can win. No, this guy can win. And you go back and forth. Good fight. As long as they both bring a hungry mentality, I feel like the fight's not going to disappoint.
Definitely. Great fights this coming Saturday. One is going to be on Netflix, Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor. The other one, Berlanga versus Shiraz, is going to be in the Zone pay-per-view. And we also going to have a great card from Fresno, California here in Pro Box TV. Thank you, Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi, Robert Garcia. I'm Ricardo Celis. Thank you for watching Boxing Scene Today.
I'm even more excited now.